All right, as you're all aware, we're looking at your identity package work for week 3, seeing where everybody's at on this. And we're going reverse order. So Brianna's first. Is Brianna here? No. Shanghai cookies. Yeah, so this looks like it's done correctly. Haven't got your logo yet or anything else. So color palette is somewhat monochromatic, and you've already picked your colors even though you don't have anything designed yet. So as I said earlier, do your designs first, then spec your colors. All right, Sai, is Sai here? Hold on. Sai is doing Babylon Soap, very similar color by coincidence. All right, Sai, this logo looks better. I still think this type to icon ratio could be better in that this is probably too big. The colors here are complementary and they're almost the same value, so they create this vibration, which is hard to look at. Does everyone agree that's hard to look at? So what you want to do is probably take the value of this blue either up or down so that it's less similar in value, light and dark, to the orange that's your assigned color. And I would probably make this type in a darker color to go on white. This is a nice looking palette. No work yet. All right, so as I said before, do your work, do the designs first, then your color palette. Josh is here.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, so Osiris Coffee. So everyone figured out right and left complementary. They're very odd. That's, as far as I've done in my research, it's pretty much an Adobe thing that they came up with. And if because right and left really don't have any meaning when you're looking down on a circle, right? So which is right and left. Anyway, you figured it out. All right, this is nice looking. So this is your assigned color, this purple, right?
Yes.
It's kind of a medium value.
Yeah. I wish it was a little bit darker. But
Yeah, me too. I almost want to tell you, just go ahead and change it. But the goal is really to sort of make it work with what you've got. Right now, you're doing an awesome job making that happen. So something happened here.
what's that?
This should be your assigned color here.
Oh, okay. I just flipped them around. My bad.
So is this a really dark version of the purple?
Yeah, it's like a darker shade of purple.
Mm-hmm. It looks almost black.
Yeah, I can lighten it up a little bit. I just kind of wanted to have a darker shade when I do other.
Yes, very good. All right, so, and here you go. So you've got this border pattern as a secondary element, which is really the logo name, but it looks just like a sort of hieroglyphic kind of pattern. So that is awesome work. You also created sort of like pyramid symbol, like diamond shape for a placeholder, which is another great sort of secondary element
I,
that
I
relates to the brand.
that was one of the unused logos I kind of reused.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we tell you to do. A bit of the brand color, just flood on the left. This is a really nice little element too with this coming in. In reality, as a letterhead, you probably couldn't do this because you can't print white
Oh
on a
yeah.
laser printer. So, but I
Okay.
still like it as a design element. It looks really great. You put a bit of a watermark back here, which is okay. Um, Watermarks, just so you understand where that comes from, in the olden days, you had letterhead made, they would, make the paper for the company. And you could, if you know how paper's made, they take the wet paper pulp and press it onto a screen. and press the water out of it, and that's how they make the paper. The screen would have woven into it the logo, a symbol, sometimes the name of the company, so that when the paper's made, it's actually pressed into the paper, and you can usually, like, you have to hold it up to the light and you can sort of see the watermark. It's called a watermark because it's made when the paper is still really wet.
Mm-hmm.
They press it in, but you know, it's kind of a cool look the way you've got it, because it's like sort of just encroaching in from the left. It's not like just slapped in the center. So you did a good job with that. All right. So you've set yourself up for success here. So you've got all the elements you need to build your business cards, right? This will be a piece of cake.
Yeah, that's today's goal.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Brianna has joined us. Brianna, as I was saying earlier, I just want to point out, you did an awesome job specking out your colors. But what I said in the live session on Monday was do your designs first, figure out what colors you're going to use, and then do your color palette. Because you might find, like, for instance, you don't really have a good contrast in value here. Like, you might need something really light or really dark as you design your pieces. So consider that going forward. You may have to change some of this. Did you, Brianna, you get it?
Yeah, I know what you were saying. I don't know if you have the updated one on there. I'd put it into like my logo that I already had. I kind of liked how it looked, but I understand what you're saying about like the contrast. I can definitely change the colors that I picked.
Yeah. Okay. Giancarlo.
Hey, I'm here.
Um, I will, every time I see this impact font, I'm going to say something. It's like if Omar was here, we talk about this because this is like a sort of Microsoft PowerPoint type font. And so it's got some poor associations for me. Your design is fine. You got to spell palette right. I hope that's not how it was in the template. And this is where you ended up.
I decided to change it because the alien did not work
All right.
with color, and the concept I decided to go with the business cards, it didn't work. You'll see it. Here you go.
So this sort of textured look in the background, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it didn't work.
Yeah, so a little bit like the one thing about the atomic cookies is I think they're described as jelly filled cookies, and this looks like a chocolate chip cookie. You know what I'm saying? It seems trivial, but I mean, it kind of just, and you did really nice chocolate chips, by the way. So when I look at this overall, the black strokes around here just jump out. They're the only thing that's black. The other two colors are sort of a medium tone, value, and then this is really dark. Change this black to something else. Maybe a
Okay.
really dark red, but just if you
Okay.
come off of black for that, I think, or it could be this sort of brown color, but something else, because black, it kind of screams at you there. Do you get what I'm
Okay.
saying? You could use
Yeah.
this color.
Okay.
It's a good palette. And you're making great progress on these cards. You've got your info. You need to have a person's name and title, because business cards always belong to a person.
Okay.
This is like a generic message. And you're using your logo lockup pretty effectively everywhere, very consistently, which I applaud that. That's great. You could, for fun, maybe separate the icon and just use it on the back, and like in some of the samples I showed.
Okay.
And I would do a little more research into how the cookie looks, Because, you know, this is like sort of the Freaky Aliens Area 51 kind of product. And this is like, you know, Happy Kid's Birthday Party. This isn't kind of quite fit. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But I do like this textured background. I think that works. So you're in good shape. That's good. And that is all we got. Okay. Brianna, Sai. Anybody else got something?
Wait, can you just refresh it really quick and bring up the new PDF I put in there? I just want to see your thoughts on that.
Yes. And I want to provide thoughts on that. Oh, lucky cat. I like the lucky cat. It feels, I feel like I want a little more color contrast in some respect. This negative space, like his belly, is there something that, what would it normally be there? It would just be the cat?
It's the amulet. So instead of the amulet, I put the fortune cookie.
Oh, okay. See, I wasn't seeing that in the negative space. Now that you said it, I do. So I don't know if there's something you can do to sort of like bring that out more.
Yeah, I can use different colors. I'll switch the color contrast.
I'm not a fan of putting the type split over the icon because what this does, it sort of restricts, when you scale this down, this logo to put on a business card, the type will be too small to read.
Okay.
So I would configure it more like how we showed you in the example, like Shanghai big and then cookies. If you look at Full Sail logo, like that kind of proportions. And these containing little parentheses, I don't think you need those.
Okay, I'll change it around then.
Some of the strokes in the face could be maybe beefed up a bit. And as an experiment, I want you to throw, you know, keep this, throw in one with another color.
Okay.
Look at a complementary color and see what that does to it.
Okay.
So for instance, if it was like a dark green collar or something, or maybe even a blue, you know, just blue or purple or something, you know, just to play with it and see what that does.
Yeah, I'm messing around with it and see which I like more.
Cool. All right, some good progress. All right. So anybody else got some stuff in progress? I mean, it doesn't have to be finished, just if we can give you some feedback on where you're at. Did anybody watch the video that I posted Omar's previous session going over this assignment? It's like an hour long, but.
Yeah, that one really helped.
I didn't post it here. Yeah, so I don't really have a lecture for today. Typically, we would just be going through the critiques. What I did want to do is show you some examples of stuff that I've been working on. So this is brand standards for this company, WMG&A. It's a financial services company. This is something I did earlier this year, July 7th. I really sort of finished it back in April or something, but they made a couple of changes. I added this kind of, if you see this logo, I didn't really come up with this logo concept, but I you know, executed it for them. But it's got like sort of a cube sort of implied in the inner space. So I created this secondary pattern of like cubes. So this is what we call the brand standards manual. So it's really a good thing to have, especially if a company's working with a lot of different vendors in terms of design and that kind of thing. Large companies have huge manuals. I worked for a big real estate company, and our graphic standard manual was like 170 pages long. part of it is, you know, like if you think of a company like Disney, right? Huge, right? They have brand standard manuals for every entity within their brand. So like, you know, Mickey Mouse, Goofy, Donald, they each have like a brand standard manual. The different parks, the different rides at the park, all of them have their own sort of consistent standards to use. You know, a friend of mine who he was working at Disney, and he was working on the Park Hopper Pass. Anybody heard of that? It lets you go from park to park. And they said he wanted to use Tigger, right? You follow me? Tigger for the Park Hopper. And they said, no, you can't use Tigger because he doesn't hop, he bounces. But they're very strict. Like they don't want to have any inconsistency whatsoever. Anyway, this is a pretty small company, and this is what I did for them. So this is all the table of contents, and I made this an interactive. So this is from InDesign. I made an interactive PDF. So you can click on, go right to whatever part of the table of contents you want to go to. It's kind of a cool feature in InDesign. So I did a logo lockup, horizontal, vertical. This is what we call usage rules. So you want to have a certain amount of clear space around your logo, but since you're going to scale the logo, it's going to sometimes it'll be bigger, you can't smaller. You can't give a measurement like 1/2 inch because that wouldn't be relevant based on a size change. So instead, what you do is you pull out something from the logo that you can use as a measuring device. So in this case, it's the M. And so it has at least an M space around it, and the TM hangs out. All right, Michael, how many sketches do you go through in order to create the logo? It depends. In this case, they came with a very clear idea about what they wanted. So it was really more just sort of executing their one idea. But yeah, it could be like 50 sketches. If it's just like sort of clear brainstorming, yeah, like, Omar probably does more than that, but you know, I'm somewhere between 25 and 50. But you know, part of it is I have a pretty good idea about, you know, what I'm doing, what works. So I can get to it quicker. But if you push yourself, you know, you think you have the solution, you just keep pushing yourself to go beyond. A lot of times you can get surprised and come up with something, you know, the thing that you thought was great ends up being, that was okay, I did better. Does that answer your question, Michael?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Also, you know, like don't put the logo over patterns and don't put it over photos where it doesn't work. So that kind of thing. Versions of the logo. So for dark backgrounds, it has white type. Black and white versions, which is, you know, rarely used, but, you know, to have a full graphic standards, you really should have that. This is monochromatic and this is black and white. So monochromatic, it's gray here, but it could be a color. Color palette specs. Now, I wasn't required to give them a full CMYK breakdown. I did for these. 5 colors. This is kind of the key color. They all come out of the logo. So I spec'd these out. They're working with a web development company that was not me, so you know I had to give them all the hex numbers. Do you know what hex numbers are? Does everybody know what this is?
It's for the RGB.
Yeah, it's just another way of noting the RGB values. It's in hexadecimal, which, you know, normal numbers are base 10, hexadecimal is base 16. So in other words, you go from 1 to 9, and then 10 is represented by the letter A, 11 B, 12 C, 13 D, and 14 E, right? 15, 16 F, yeah. So for instance, white is FFFFF, It's like all the numbers, all the way up. Anyway, primary fonts, so typefaces, headline, subhead, body text, disclaimer text, and all the specs about what font we're using. You're going to have typography next month, so typography has changed a lot too because of the digital world. And like, if you pick a font and it's not available, like say on a Microsoft platform or something, then you might have trouble if they want a PowerPoint. So you have to sort of think through all the places you're going to use the font and make sure it's available. Identity package, just like you're doing, right? Letterhead, return address, or this is letterhead, envelope, business card front and back. I actually got these printed for them. And what we did is I printed it, CMYK, and then hit this part only, the logo, with a spot varnish. So the whole card is kind of matte, and then just the color part of the logo is like glossy. So apparel, swag. So this is just sort of fantasy. So there are all kinds of mock-up templates that you can get. And I got a few for a coffee mug, a hat, shirt. This is like enormous for the shirt, but it kind of shows what it looks like. But you see, the mock-up will actually convert your Illustrator file into what looks like thread. So that's just a conversion in Photoshop. Key imagery, they really only had this one picture they like to use. I tried to encourage them to get more. We're still working through that, but they like that one. Email signature. So this, the way I work this is to set it up in a Microsoft Word document, supply it to the client. They can copy and paste it into their email. But you have to set that up. And then they had, because they're financial services, they had a disclaimer and letterhead disclaimer. Email newsletter, I wasn't like a big fan of this. They used a template. I had to like work within the template that they purchased. But I created this sort of imagery for the logo. Presentation, so this is PowerPoint setup. This is pretty really basic PowerPoint setup, and some companies have much more complicated PowerPoints. But this is all the stuff you got to build. Facebook cover image and LinkedIn cover image. So trying to build a color background that worked with this logo that had so many colors in it. So I sort of made a gradient, a multiple gradient, so it had a little depth, and it gets a little darker behind these light blue circles. And that's it. So this was a pretty simple one, but it's the most recent one I did. Comments, questions, thoughts?
Yeah, the gradient looks awesome.
Thank you. The other thing I could show you is certain techniques in Illustrator. Is everybody familiar with how to do patterns in Illustrator? I don't know if Omar did that, but I was going to demo a couple little techniques in Illustrator that may help you as you're working on your identity package. So one of the tools I want to show you is called excuse me, move this. Let's just make a shape here. I'm going to fill it. Oops. Just pick a color, any color. All right. There's a tool in Illustrator that doesn't get talked about a lot. It's under Effects, Distort and Transform, Transform. I'm just going to hold here. you do a screenshot of this. This tool is like the most powerful tool in Illustrator. It's different than just the object transform because it's an effect. When you select it with an object, it brings up this little control panel. Typically the preview's turned off, but I'll turn that on. And you have scaling, moving, angle. You can also transform just the pattern if it was filled with a pattern. All these different aspects. You have the 9-point grid here, so you can do it. So just to demo what it does. Say I said move, I want to move this, and you see I'm moving it to, just beyond itself, like somewhere here. And then if I go to copies, I'm gonna move this out of the way, and increase the number of copies, all of a sudden I'm repeating this. So it's a great way. And then I say, okay, well, I want more space between them or less space between them. You have all this control over it. Now, if I say, okay, this is still just one object. The rest of these are the effect. So if I try to grab any of them, I'm only grabbing this one. And when I move it, everything happens to this. Now, if I, for instance, rotate this, they all rotate. If I change the color to something else, they all change. Kind of cool thing, right? Now, say I wanted to change this effect, I have to go to the appearance panel, properties. No, appearance. Yes?
Is there any way to change the color of each of them individually without actually having to,
Yes.
like going, okay.
What you would do, you could expand this and they would become separate objects. But then you no longer have the control of the transform effect. Make sense? Want me to show you? So I say object expand appearance, and now they're all separate. There's a ungroup. And now I can change each one separately. See that? So if I take this and I go to effect, distort and transform, I'm going to put the pin at the bottom. I'm going to rotate this like 36 degrees and make copies. So I have this. So I'm going to take my little flower here. Actually, I'm going to shrink this down a bit. I'll probably expand this right now. Sorry, I need more coffee. Expand appearance. I'm going to take that and go to Pathfinder. I had this all set up before class, and then my computer, I had to restart. So now I got one nice little flower shape. I'm going to make a little centerpiece for this. Nice red color. And off center a bit. Grouped it. All right, so now I go to my swatches. Just shrink this down a bit. I'm going to drop this into my swatches. And right away, it becomes a pattern. New pattern swatch. If I double click on the swatch, I have the control over the pattern. Right now, it's what we call brick and row. They're just a grid, right? Or no, this is a grid, not brick and row. So brick and row shifts it slightly. If I say size tile to art, I can now change the spacing horizontally. Maybe I want a little further, vertically, want a little closer. But I've now created my own custom pattern. And I say done. All right, so now when I make a big shape it fills with the pattern. I filled it with that pattern. I fill it with green, copy it, Command F, paste in front, fill it with the pattern. See where I'm going with this? It's already sort of an interesting thing, and I've just done nothing really, just goofing around. What do you guys think? Helpful?
Yeah.
As I said before, the transform, if you go to Object Transform here and Scale, the Scale dialog box has these little controls here. So I can turn off Scale Corners, Scale Strokes and Effects, Transform Objects, and only transform the pattern. And then I say, make it 50% smaller. And it just made the pattern smaller without changing the size or shape of the object. So that's pretty helpful as well. You can also, this is another thing. So if you were trying to move it so that it lines up, like some patterns you want to have them line up to the edge of something, you could also do the transform move and transform the pattern only, and you can move the pattern around within the shape that you've created. So these are really useful tools that no one told me about. I just sort of found them. If you look in Illustrator, you will see it has existing patterns like they provide. So I'm going to pick this one and do this pattern. This pattern was created by Von Glitzka for Adobe. It's really cool pattern, nice repeating pattern. He does a thing where he takes the pattern and then he flips it upside down and puts it like low transparency on top of itself, which creates more of a texture feel. Don't use this in your work because it's his pattern, not yours. This is for people who don't know how to design and need a pattern and they don't know how to make one. Whenever I see a student use this pattern, I tell them, change it, make your own. It's so easy to make your own, right? Does everybody know how to do a pattern brush? I know Josh does. Josh, you want to do a demo?
No, thank you.
I'm not getting any answers, so I don't know. Maybe you know it already.
Yeah, I know how to use the pattern brush.
All right, so I won't do that. But these things will help you in creating your identity package. Do you guys want to see anything else? Can I answer any other questions? Anybody want to workshop their ideas, like what they're doing? Julian, I know you have work. I've seen your stuff. How come you didn't put it in the discussion?
I'm trying to rework it. I figured you've already seen it, and I want to do something to change it and make it better. So I've just been trying to rework it all.
All right.
I did my logo. I'm trying to do different color palettes this time instead.
All right,
And,
good.
Yeah.
The one thing about your previous color palette, it just didn't have enough value contrast.
Okay. So definitely make sure to include that. I think instead of going with the pentagram, I want to go with the tetrad.
All right, so just to be clear, you don't have to stick to one of those relationships. You can use those as a basis and go off of it, or you can start over and just go in a totally different direction.
Okay. Okay.
Did everybody know that? I'm hoping everybody knows it. All right, Josh, I'm glad you turned on your camera. Now we can see you got the quarantine beard.
Yeah.
I lost mine.
Man. Yeah, I don't feel like shaving.
I don't blame you. All right. So that's all I have for now. When we get together Friday, I hope that everyone is really far along on their identity package. I can give you a sort of final critique so that when you submit it, you get an A+, because you've done everything we've talked about and you should do perfectly. Any questions about anything previous? I know some of you want to get with me one-on-one, and I will make myself available today. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up.